Oh, I just pressed you. Hello, everyone. Sorry for the slightly late start. We were just waiting for the other panelists to come in from the tower base. So welcome to our next panel session just ahead of our final keynote. The title is The Metaverse and Web3 Surpassing the Limits of Business. So welcome to our chair, Theo Tzanidis at the University of the West of Scotland.
Well, thanks everyone. I spent a wonderful day talking to some wonderful people today, and we're trying to save some of our talks for you today. But one of the things we're going to be looking, my background, I'm a senior lecturer in digital marketing in UWS, and my background obviously comes from digital marketing, and one of the no-brainers is the connection between digital growth, digital transformation, and what happened in 2021 in October, which was everybody saw this new word coming into our lives, and changing the perception of what is online and what is offline, what is 2D and what's 3D. And today we're going to be talking about this. And we have Rosa, Industry Technology Innovation Lead Europe from Accenture. We have Esther O'Callaghan OBE, founder of Hundo. And we're going to try to explore this today. And I'm just going to pick up the, I don't know if I'm going to start with some definitions here, because I think the big thing here that everybody's wondering is what is. And I would like to focus here that this first definition from Matthew Ball is a very good way to identify what is internet and how it gets applied. And one of the things I would like to focus is synchronicity, persistence, and also the effect that we're looking at data, identity, entitlements, ownership, objects, communications, and payments. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong later on, Nick. Nick defines the metaverse as an infrastructure, a network of things and objects and platforms that and highlights that the importance here is interconnectivity. It's all about being able to work with each other, something we don't see right now. But we saw in the early stages of the first iteration of the internet. And that's another thing, when we talk about definitions. Metaverse is the new internet, and many people think it's a Mark Zuckerberg thing, but it's an evolution from 2D to 3D, because there's so many applications, so many definitions, and so many terminology and jargonistic descriptions of what metaverse is. You heard Web3, NFTs, different things. But one thing that it is, it's an evolution from 2D into 3D. And if you think the screens are, imprisoning us after all these zoomification sessions from COVID, then that is one way to see it. And another way, that's me just trying there to actually put the layers, the different layers, because when you say metaverse, everybody thinks VR. Other people think worlds like, my son is playing Roblox, Minecraft, and all the other types of games that, Generation Alpha is playing right now. It's everything, and it's more. So basically here what we have is mixed reality, which is a composition of virtual reality and augmented reality, which we can find in tablets and phones, then evolves and merges with holographic reality, which is, something we can use without HMDs. And, there are technologies right now that we can actually have the digital world come into our physical world. So when we actually see these, the next question is, what next? And we have new types of terminology and sub-themes that came forward because, we don't have metaverses as we don't have internets. But, we have different sub-themes. There's the obvious gaming, there's the social, there's the educational, the commercial, the industrial, which is very underestimated, by the way. There's a lot of marvels that engineers are using the metaverse, digital twins and other concepts. And, of course, the consumer side of things that we're going to see later on in one of the other talks. So I'm going to start this session. I'm going to take it to our guests with an obvious question here. What is the relationship between the metaverse and AI? Is the AI the new hype in town, or should I say metaverse is dead and AI is the new thing?
Well, the metaverse, thanks God, is not dead. Is well alive. There is some, obviously, some loss of trust from some of the investors on companies that have been doing metaverse business, like FTX. We've seen everyone seen what happened with the company, and a loss of trust in technologies like cryptocurrencies and blockchain. There is also a problem related to the loss of jobs that certain companies operating in the metaverse, like Meta, had in the last 18 months, and that was quite tragic because a lot of people lost their job, and they obviously this disrupted also family lives. But the metaverse is well alive, and the relationship between AI and the metaverse also is deeply intertwined. As you were rightly saying, my vision, the description of what the metaverse is, which is also in my book, Understanding the Metaverse, A Business and Ethical Guide, is that the metaverse is an infrastructure. And as an infrastructure, it's basically an ensemble of technologies that are interoperating between each other. And all of those technologies, like, for example, networking, technologies related to digital identity, technologies related to moderation, and obviously artificial intelligence, are playing a role in the construction of this vision that we have, that in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, we're going to be able to consume the data in a three-dimensional way, in an immersive way, and we're going to also be able to paint the world with data using augmented reality. So AI can be used for moderation. AI can be used in a very smart way to allow a lower point of entry for user-generated content in the metaverse, which is super important. Probably you all played with Midjourney or DALL-E or all those beautiful applications that allow you to put some text and then get an image. Imagine doing this, but with 3D worlds. You say, I want to be in New York City in 1930, and then all of a sudden you put your headset on and you find yourself into a bar, and there's a pianist playing in the background, and there's some smoke in the air, and there's a jazz pianist on the stage. It's basically like the holodeck of Star Trek made real. And this is the vision that we have of the future, and the kind of entertainment that we can expect in the future. There are obviously other use cases that are more related to consumers and to enterprise and to also marketing and sales. But AI is part of the technology stack of the metaverse, 100%.
And I believe that, I heard that, Stable Diffusion is, has just launched, and another iteration is not yet available to everyone, that you can build whole worlds in three-dimensional areas, that can go online and, can be bootstrapped on any platform, which is interesting to see that this is a way to democratizing the market, and it's not be a developer's gig, and, open it up to the world.
This is fundamental. I mean, if we think about the metaverse as the next infrastructure that will power the diffusion of information across the world, exactly like the internet is doing right now, we need to create tools that will allow easy access for people to design that content and create that content. Probably some of you remember programming in HTML. So some people still do. It's a painful job. Then companies like WordPress came over, and now there's Squarespace. There are many companies that are doing drag and drop interfaces that allow you to create websites very easily in a matter of minutes. Same things needs to happen for 3D content, 100%, in order to get the metaverse to the mass market attention.
I would like to focus here because we had a conversation, because we are also internet buddies. So, and I remember as soon as, the metaverse came on, there was all these metaverse officers. And then, when AI just, was the new kid in town, and I remember having a joke. So can you just reflect a little bit on this? I mean,
talking about the metaverse is like talking about digital transformation with advanced technologies, okay? Now we're calling it metaverse. Before we were calling it digital transformation. Now is a generative AI-driven transformation. At the end of the day, what our job is to solve problems. The fad of the technology will go away as soon as the next big thing will arrive in town. Probably it's going to be quantum, probably it's going to be fusion energy, probably it's going to be robotics, nobody knows, or space economy we were talking about before. It's a big thing, it's a huge thing. The fact is that you have to solve problems and you have to make this world a better place at the end of the day. Starting from the technology will not solve any problem to anybody. You have to understand the problem and choose the right technology that will enable the solution that will solve that problem. Eventually with a business objective in mind or with a humanitarian, hopefully, objective in mind. But talking about people that are, before they were calling themselves Metaverse officer and now they're artificial intelligence officer, I mean, that's just gossiping at the end of the day. We're here to do business.
Me? I did a lot of work with non-fungible labs, which is now Futureverse. And the way that I like to describe myself and anyone who works in Web3 emerging technologies is we're all experts since yesterday. So.
Yeah. So basically, that's a good way to just move on to the next question. And I would like to start with you, Esther, about metaverse and economy, and then we can move on to Nick. Can you provide a personal story about how the metaverse generated one-of-a-kind economic opportunity for you or your organization, and how this affected your traditional approach to business or career? So basically, what did it do to you, the metaverse? Mm-hmm. What was the...
Well, it's all your fault. So I've spent the last 2 decades and more working in and around youth issues with a focus primarily on what happens when young people don't have access to opportunity. And that's based on my background as well. And I came to Glasgow in 2019, January 2019, and Theo and Dr. Matt Frew at University of West of Scotland strapped an Oculus Rift Pro to my head, and that was it. I went down the rabbit hole. But the serious point of that was during COVID, we started Hundo because young people lost their jobs at 3 to 5 times the rate of every other age group. Already in low pay, 0 hours. They weren't getting furloughed, baking banana bread. It was quite catastrophic. And at the same time, they're the first ever digital native generation, as far as we know, on Earth. And in the hiring market, there was an equivalent number of well-paid tech roles. And I found this particularly heartbreaking because it was kind of going, these kids have got the skills. How do we make sure that unlike Web2, there is much more opportunity for kids like me, from where I come from and the kids that I've worked with in my career, to actually be able to access this, exactly what Nick said, this brand new economy that is nascent and emerging, but incredibly powerful for making sure that hopefully we can get a generation actually ahead of this curve instead of behind.
That's good because, this is one of the most important elements, accessibility, having access, to knowledge and, digital skills, but we keep that for now. Nick, what's your take on this, on the economy?
Well, the economy that is driven by the metaverse right now is obviously mostly shifted towards the enterprise business. For obvious reasons, the market penetration of the devices that are powering this vision of the immersive metaverse is fairly low. We're talking about 40 million units, the latest numbers. So, but there are some companies, like for example Accenture, that are doing some amazing stuff with this kind of technology. Like for example, we onboarded like 220,000 people in the metaverse during the pandemic. We distributed 65,000 VR headsets to our new joiners. We've been able to do this kind of hybrid approach to the onboarding, some people with the headsets, some people with the laptops, because we realized that during the normal sessions that we were doing of onboarding on Microsoft Teams that we were using during the pandemic with video calls, it was difficult to create proper human connection on a wall of 250 faces on a 2D screen. And there was the lack of that virtual campfire that you create normally when you go on conferences like this one and you casually meet people in a corridor and you start talking about interesting things, which is crucial and vital for the onboarding process of every Accenturian. In the first 2 days of your onboarding, basically you're supposed to create the network that gives you the first assignment for your first job at Accenture. Accenture, basically you go there and you have to sell yourself to get hired by client teams that are going to send you to the right clients. So we started doing this as an experiment and became highly successful. And now Accenture has the highest number of VR headsets, as far as I know, that has been distributed globally to any company.
Okay, and I mean that suggests that some element of learning has to happen, both organizationally, because you're working with a new platform, you have to develop things, but also the digital skill sets that you just mentioned that need to be accessible, need to be open to everyone. While this video is playing in the background, that's Hundo's perspective, but it's good to reflect on the digital skill sets. I mean, what about young people that want to actually engage with this? How do they do this? I mean, how does it work?
Start talking to me.
Yeah, starting to you, and then
it's so for me, I'm very used to seeing this video with drum and bass music blaring out. So this is a new one.
Yeah.
So for us, it was a very simple thing. You can't build the future without the future builders. If young people don't have access to the skills, knowledge, and even just awareness of employers, and what they do, and the jobs that you can do, you can't build this future. We are facing a critical, chronic skill shortage across every vertical. I'm sure you know this better than me. And in simple terms, World Economic Forum stats there's 1.1 billion new tech roles needed by 2030. It's 2024 in 2 months. And it's kind of going as much as emerging technology, and I love it. Of course, I love it. I'm here. It's also created for a long time now swathes of job losses. Robotics, automation. We are in a fourth industrial revolution, and that actually means, well, as we've seen in the past, it means significant job losses. The difference now is we have access to technology and tools where we can start to rapidly upskill people in a way that hasn't been possible in the past. And I think that's what's interesting. It's like, obviously, we focus on 14 to 24-year-olds. The reason for that is simple. It's the age group that we know best. It's, as I said before, it's the ones that, youth and employment rates always trend higher than overall unemployment rates. But the reskilling and the upskilling is necessary for every age group now, because you've got about 264 million young people not in education, employment training worldwide, 1.1 billion role.
Yes.
We all need to have some sort of base layer of not just digital skills, but all of the kind of people call them soft skills, but they're actually essential. And those are communication, teamwork, all of that. And it's not just about emerging technology. We work in education institutes across the UK, and they haven't heard of Slack. So it doesn't matter about Metaverse or XR or VR. It's kind of going basic work tech tools aren't even in people's wheelhouse. We've been to careers fairs where there is no Wi-Fi.
Oh my God.
So so it's like, how do you with Hundo, it's going like, you have to build a bridge. There is a systemic structural breakdown between what people are being educated in and what they actually need to learn that's going to lead to work. And Hundo is essentially just trying to be that bridge.
That's great. And I mean, that naturally takes us to the next theme, which is learning, skills, and working, which I believe, Nick, we could, start with. Could you talk about the transformational learning or work training experience in the metaverse and how it influenced your or someone career trajectory in a unique way? So is there something you can reflect from Accenture?
So, okay, first of all, going back to what Esther was saying before, and this is super, super important, we need to understand that soft skills and logical thinking are going to be one of the most important, if not the most important skill of the future. Because in 10 years from now, every digital interaction that we're going to have is going to be mediated by artificial intelligence. So this means that you will need to be able to be fluent and articulate in the way that you want the output from the machine. Some people call it prompt engineering right now. Yeah. It's something that is going to be fundamental in the next 10 years. So absolutely. When it comes to transformational experiences in learning and training and education, there is one that is very close to my heart that we deployed in the state of Indiana. Basically, the state of Indiana came to us with a problem saying that they had a very high attrition, which is basically a lot of people were hired and a lot of people resigned from the job of case workers for families that were suspected of abusing their children. So it's a hard job to do because you have to go there, you have to interview the family, you have to assess the situation, you have to understand if it's the case of changing the life of children, sending them to foster care and their families, removing the children from the home. And they had a problem. So what we did was to create an application that was helping to train the case workers in a more effective way. We deployed in the state of Indiana very successfully. We reduced the attrition level of case workers signing up for the job and then leaving immediately. So we reduced this problem. But after that, also, we noticed something interesting from the data, that the children that were sent to foster care were higher in families that were not Caucasian. So we had to do an additional module that was for unconscious bias and diversity and inclusion within the application. And this was also very successful because we've seen a reduction of children from other ethnicities that were not Caucasian sent to foster care. And was so successful that we deployed the solution to other 4 states in the United States. So this is probably one of the best examples of metaverse technologies applied for good. But there are tons. I can talk about the amazing work that Professor Tom Furness is doing with this virtual world society as well.
What a great guy,
He's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, and Esther, so anything you can reflect from your journey in Hundo about the introduction of metaverse in learning?
Yeah, so one of the most powerful use cases that I saw was a prison, again in the United States, where teenagers, young men predominantly, had been sent down in the 60s and 70s with crazy long sentences for petty crime. Some serious crime, but mostly petty. They grew up in a world where ATMs weren't a thing. They didn't exist. So they enter a world in their 40s and 50s that is alien. You may as well put them on another planet. So, of course, they reoffend and they go back inside. So they were using, it was a project using AR, VR technology to rehabilitate in advance of parole. And it was reducing reoffending rates quite significantly. And it's incredibly, you can find it on YouTube, it's incredibly moving. And that's where I think this technology has real power. Those are the use cases. Another fascinating one in Scandinavia, a female founder who's developed for dentists, because about 50% of people are scared of going to the dentist, so the cancellation rates are super high. So they put headsets on. It's nature, and it's reducing cancellation rates. And sort of there's a lot of clickbait in the media. This technology is not perfect. Of course it isn't. It's designed by humans. But there are some really, really powerful use cases where you really start to see how this can start to transform people's lives, and I think that's the most exciting thing for me.
But I just want to stay here a bit, because you just mentioned that the technology is not yet ready. It's evolving. It's like the beginning of the internet. I mean, we remember how it was.
Netscape, GeoCities,
Yahoo,
MySpace,
and, GeoCities and all the rest, and I mean, it was a great era, but it took some time to just become lean and frictionless. And here what we have is, a new introduction, a new framework, as Nicolas says. So how this is going to go forward? How do you see that work with learning? I mean, from our perspectives in the university, we did an experiment quite recently with Dr. Matthew Frew, and one of the results that we found out is, we took students, we gave them the headsets, they went home, and we found one of the biggest issues is infrastructure. For example, internet access, variability of speeds. Not everybody has fiber optic. So then, that becomes then inhibitor in the experience that you get on the platform. So with that in mind, what do you think are the next steps that needs to be made?
So I think, I think there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to catch up.
Yeah.
And it's also the issue of affordability. Headsets are not cheap. So as much as, being able to deploy them into places of learning is an effective way, so then it's more accessible. In terms of mainstream adoption, until it becomes probably, correct me if I'm wrong, it's probably going to be subscription based. It's probably going to be, the hardware comes with a, like mobile phones, So I think, I think there's a way to go. But I also think it's not just all about XR. There are ways of being able to interact on a screen. For us, we specifically designed Hundo to work on a standard, browser, and also on a 3 to 4 year old smartphone. Because otherwise it's not accessible. If you're working in prisons, it has to all be offline. So there's kind of it's clunky. I think at the moment it's I always think about it like it's almost like the back end is currently the front end. Yeah. So it's horrible. But eventually, we'll kind of flip that around. Nick.
From my perspective, and I can bring the enterprise point of view on this, I think that there is a problem that is fundamental, that many of the companies that are going into the metaverse learning business are not coming from an enterprise background, but from a gaming background, which is fantastic from a front-end point of view. They're able to create amazing 3D worlds and interaction with virtual humans. But the problem relays on the data capture that they create. What's the data architecture in the application that you're building? What are the connection with the learning management system? Is your platform connected to Workday, Cornerstone, or SuccessFactors? How do you capture the data of the users? How do you manage the headsets? Quest for Business literally has been launched a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Has been years in the making. The problem is that companies, especially highly regulated verticals like oil and gas or pharma, they need to manage their fleet of technology devices because they have to be secure by design. So the lack of those infrastructure and platforms for them is a problem to increase the distribution of this solution to their employees. And also, I mean, it's a matter of understanding the right design on how to create the best learning experience possible. I've seen a lot of companies jumping on board the bandwagon of large language models recently, just throwing virtual humans connected to ChatGPT just to show that they have it. But I was talking the other day with the CEO of Tailspin, which is a good friend of mine. And he was telling me that obviously there are some problems in just implementing this kind of technology out of the box into a learning experience, and you have to design it properly and carefully in a way that makes sense for the user to understand first the base and the foundation of the learning that you want to provide, and then eventually interact with a virtual human. And this is a design problem that has to be assessed and solved as well. But there are many problems.
I want to just know that we are short of time, but I'm just going to focus on I believe it's very important, and I didn't want to miss it. It's all about safety, privacy, or security. And do you have any take-home, how do you say, things about this? Because there are worries about security, privacy. Because this is data, and this is people's lives and 3D behaviors.
It's a challenge because we give away our data all the time for free at the moment, and even where we look at education data, obviously. So we look at zero knowledge. where you have, because obviously if you put data onto blockchain, it is by design publicly available, it's public ledger. Things like ZK, Zero Knowledge Offer, a privacy layer. Every young person on our platform communicates through a military-grade encrypted social network. So with their teachers, we have to overcome lots beyond safety and privacy. We've got child protection issues. We work with kids under 16, so there's a lot that goes in that. But there is an element of, I think for us, looking at the nature of decentralization is about our right to protect our own data and that it's ours. Every young person's data on our platform is theirs. And if they want to take it back, if they want to delete it, it's gone. And it's designed with that end in mind. But that's a big shift generationally, because at the moment the rest of us have all just signed up and given it away. So yeah, I think that's really important for Web3.
Nick?
My biggest worry, which I'm also exploring in my book, as I was saying before, is from a manipulation perspective. Let's not forget that as they are right now, large language models and generative AI are conversationally very good at understanding what you want and give you an output that you want, right? Imagine a future where those agents, those generative AI agents, will be able to get access to your historic data, to all the cookies that you have on your device, see the TV show that you watch, the football team that you support, the fashion that you like, the music that you listen to. They will be able to become your best friends. But when you are with your best friend, you listen to what they're saying. And this could lead potentially to manipulative behaviors. And the best thing that could happen is that one of those virtual agents in Metaverse platform will try to sell you a car. The worst thing that could happen is that it will try to instill a political view in your mind, or even worse. So it's important, and funny enough, in the law that has been presented by Joe Biden in the United States a couple of weeks ago, was it?
Yeah.
There's no mention to the word manipulation, which is a problem, and I believe that the UK government and the European Union should really look into this, because this could be a problem and this could be a real threat. And also there is a problem of authenticity. We need to understand what is real and what is not, what has been generated and what is not, if we are talking to a real human or not. And if I'm going in a room wearing my AR glasses and maybe it's 40 degrees outside and I see a lot of Coca-Cola cans everywhere, I need to know if those Coca-Cola cans are real or are just product placement to make me want to buy a Coca-Cola, okay? This is important. Sounds like science fiction, but it's a conversation that we will need to have now to avoid the next Cambridge Analytica in 10 years from now.
Well, thanks for that. I mean, as you can see, we didn't have a lot of time. It's a big topic. And I'm just going to, if you want any more questions, we are all very active in LinkedIn. So we will be very happy to actually connect with you and take that conversation online. Also, I would like to say that we're going to be miking up for 1 minute. So stay put and we're coming back. Thank you.